It's been my experience that most people who do not reach their rainmaking potential or the business development potential, one of the main reasons is because they really haven't organized their database in a way that allows them to mine for gold. Instead, what they end up doing is spinning their wheels with a lot of people who have a lot of time on their hands to give them the attention they want, right? Who don't have the power, the influence, or the authority to really deliver the results that you're looking for or that these people are looking for. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to take maybe the next 15 to 30 minutes, and I wanted to show you what I think is a revolutionary way of reorganizing your database. And it's all part of my box system. And I want you to think of my box system as my Outlook. Okay, so if you use Outlook or you use Salesforce, my program is called the box system. Now, I'm not here to try to sell you on the box system. What I did was I extracted from the box system the section on organizing your database that I really think can have some awesome impact on your business. Guys, I'm telling you, I have worked with some really successful people in my Rainmaker U program. And when I teach them my organizational system, how to organize their database, it's such a pleasure for me to see the light bulb go on in their mind, because so many of these people say to themselves, I cannot believe how successful I am, and I never really organized my database in a way that allowed me to leverage it. And now that I have, I can see how easy it is to really explode through to the next level. I'm telling you, you're going to be amazed. You're going to be blown away by it. And so what I wanted to do was two things. One is I wanted to teach you my blue, green, white card system of how to segment your database according to importance. And number two is I want to show you how I organize everybody else in my database who doesn't fall into the blue, green, or white card. So imagine you have a database of 300, 400, 500, 5,000 people. I want to show you how to organize that database so you segment out the most important people so you can focus on them the way they need to be focused on, and how to organize everybody else so everybody goes in their proper place. And there's nobody in your database who you have not intentionally decided should be in there. Okay? So what I want to do first is I want to take a couple of moments and I want to talk about the difference between an ineffective contact system and an effective one. And the reason I want to do this is because I want you to see just how intertwined organizing your database is with the success of your contact system. Okay? So on the left-hand side, we have ineffective. On the right-hand side, we have effective. Now, let's talk about what's on the left-hand side. The truth of the matter is, for most people, it's like a garbage pail. Everything is in one pail. It's not organized according to importance. You got old contacts with new contacts. You got prospects with clients, with sorority sisters and fraternity brothers, and some people you met somewhere at some function which you can't even remember, people you lost contact with, people who passed away. It's crazy. But everybody's put into here in a mishmash of contacts, and it's basically like a garbage pail, right? Sound familiar? If it does, first of all, don't despair because you're not alone. And number two is I'm going to show you how to organize things even better. All right? So I'm going to help you figure that out. Okay. Number two, it doesn't tell you how to stay in contact, right? So you got these people in your database, many of whom don't belong in there, but it doesn't tell you how to maintain contact, right? So all of a sudden you get that reminder in Outlook, right? Oh, 30 days later, you need to touch Tim. And you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do today? Or maybe the first couple of times you're kind of excited, but really your business is overwhelming you. You're focused in the moment. Now you got to stop and think strategically about how you're going to maintain contact with people. It's impossible. So what ends up happening is you hit the dismiss button. You know that. Or remind me later. And you should hit the dismiss button because it makes no sense to remind you later because you're not going to be able to do anything with it. These databases are rarely updated, and you know that. I mean, when's the last time you sat down, pulled out your database, printed it out, or whatever you did online, and deleted anybody in there who doesn't belong in there for whatever reason? Most people go through their entire career and never update their database. It's created in a vacuum. These contact systems are created in a vacuum, right? Nobody in the team has a clue who is important and why they're important. Nobody has an idea how to maintain contact with the most important people, who to spend your most time with, who to avoid spending time with, who's a time suck, right? It's just all on you. The problem is if you're the only person with the combination to the safe, nothing ever works unless you're around. It's never exploited to the full potential. And usually it's never exploited because the underbrush drags down, or prevents the real, pretty flowers from sprouting up, right? And lastly, it's filled with typically mediocre people. It doesn't mean that they're mediocre human beings. It just means that your database is put together because you want it to inspire you. You want it to be lucrative. You want to be able to spend time with those people so they can enrich your life and help you grow your business. Well, if it's filled with a lot of mediocre people who can't do that, how inspired are you think you're going to be to maintain contact? Now, I want you to contrast that. Here's what effective systems have. They prompt you to stay in touch, just like on the ineffective side, right? It doesn't tell you how to maintain contact, but it does tell you who you need to maintain contact with. An effective system does the same. It's got to prompt you on a daily basis who to maintain contact with. But you decide now who to stay in touch with, right? You decide now what you're going to send later. You decide now if you're going to have lunch in the future, dinner in the future, invite them to an event in the future, send them some kind of material relating to your company. Because you and I know when you're in the game, you're in the trenches, you're fighting like a dog, and guess what? You don't have time to stop and say, no, what am I going to do to touch Tim today? You don't have time for that. You don't have time to do that every single day for all the people you need to maintain contact with. So the best systems decide beforehand. You got to get the team involved, right? It's got to be fun, right? It's got to be fun. Think about it like this. When you work out, working out includes the word work. You gotta run, right? You gotta lift weights. Well, when you work out, it's funny. It energizes you. It's almost like the more work you do, the more energized you get. Same thing with your database. It's got to be fun where interacting with everybody in it motivates you. It's got to be full of meaningful contacts, people who matter to you, because the more meaningful they are, the more motivated you're going to be to work the database. And here's the key. This is what we're going to lead into. It's got to be segmented according to importance. This is my blue, green, white card system, right? You got to segment out, right? So you've got your entire database. Everybody in there is in there intentionally for a particular purpose. Everybody's in their right spot. Now, within that is a subset, the most important people. Those are your blue, green, and white. I'll show you what I mean in a moment, okay? Now, who goes into your database? I want you to start to think of it like this, right? What's the criteria? Well, I got a couple of suggestions for you. You got to put in there fellow connectors, people just like you, people who get it. People who are willing to go out of their way. They have a great database, right? B, they have tremendous personal brand credibility. And C, they're willing to use that credibility on behalf of other people to help them move along. Now, guys, I have to tell you something. In my database, I used to have a guy in there. Fantastic guy, fantastic plaintiff trial lawyer. And early on, he was in my database. He was one of my key guys. But I quickly came to realize this guy had a great database. This guy had tremendous personal brand credibility, but he didn't have the guts, the courage, the willingness to use his personal brand credibility on behalf of others. He wasn't selfish. He just wasn't comfortable with it. So I couldn't put him in that special subset, the blue, green, white. I couldn't put him in there. Still in my database, still a great friend. But I've got to be judicious with my time, and I've got to find people that I like him, that's a class act like him, that's great at what he does like he does, but are connectors like me. Because that's where I have to spend the bulk of my time. Number two, people who are more advanced than we are. Guys, the name of the game, look at your network like real estate. You do not want to be the best house on the block. You want to be the worst house on the best block, because that means you have the best place or the most chance for growth. So your database should be filled with people who are way better than you, more advanced than you are, people who can reach down and pull you up and transform your business and transform your life. Remember, these people are looking forward too. They're not looking backwards to us. So we've got to work doubly hard to get their attention. But if we give them some sort of value, and I don't mean just clients, but if we give them something to pay attention to about us, it's remarkable how they can transform our lives. In my Rainmaker U program, super, super successful, recruited over 400 professionals, made well over $10 million for myself, my business, my family. I can tell you there were 4 or 5 key people who reached down and pulled me up and transformed my business. And I remember the very first guy that did. And I remember I had to chase him, right? It wasn't chase him like beg him and like, hey, pay attention to me. But I had to chase him because he, was focused in other areas. But I had to get his attention. I had to show him value. And once I did, he really took a liking to me. And he made calls and he made things happen on my behalf. And he changed my business and changed my life. Similarly, you got to find people you like and you trust. This is the Warren Buffett rule. There'll be people you like, you don't trust. The people you don't like, but you trust. Life is too short. Look for both. People I like and people I trust. Lastly, look for people, not just people who can give me more new business. Look for people who are great at what they do. Because people who are great at what they do associate with other people who are great at what they do. And your objective is to be around great people and get those great people to introduce you to their networks. That's how fewer better actually transform your business more rapidly than spray and pray. But it takes guts because it's a lot easier if I'm working really, really hard. I'm convincing myself I'm working really, really hard, and I'm justifying how hard I'm working. You feel better about yourself and at least you're working than you would have. Let me be more judicious. Let me, take less at bats, but make sure that they're better at bats because I know I have better chances of hitting home runs. Problem with that is you're not as busy, so sometimes you can get in your head about it. But I'm telling you, don't be afraid to just associate with people who are great at what they do. You'll be shocked at how they'll lead you to other great people who are great at what they do, and that in turn, will turn you on to more and better new business. Okay? Now, let me tell you about my blue, green, white card system. So I bought into the fewer, better concept. And I wanted to figure out a way that I could take my best and my brightest, I could organize them inside my database and focus on them in a way that they deserve the attention, that they got the attention they deserved. And if I did it correctly, I'd build incredible relationships that would transform my life and my business. And so what I did was I came up with my blue, green, white card system. Now, here's what I did is the blue card. I selected 2 criteria. One, they had to help me materially grow my business and materially enrich my life. What I did was I set a standard when I first started out. They had to either directly generate or indirectly generate $25,000 or more in revenue for my business, and they had to be an important part of my life personally. If they disappeared, if I lost, if they God forbid passed away or they moved away, I would be devastated. That's what a blue card. They have both components. A green is one or the other, and a white is a prospect to become a blue or a green. Now, this database is very different than simply prospecting. Like, let's say life insurance. You want to make 10 calls, get 3 appointments, they keep 1, you get 1 sale, right? 10-3-1 is the concept. This is much more strategic. You could be prospecting, but at the same time, these are centers of influence. These could be current clients. They could simply be clients that people who are no longer clients or people that never were clients, but they're big believers of yours, right? In some way, they generate business directly or indirectly to you. Now, this is really, really important you understand this. You see how in the green you have materially enriched my life or my business? My database, my special subset of blue, green, white, I have some people in there who are just purely my best friends, but don't generate any business for me. You see, it's not all about the dollars and cents. It's also about, well-roundedness. It's also about loving relationships independent of business. my very best friend in the world, we met in 7th grade, in CCD class at St. Joseph's. We've been friends for, I guess we were 11 at the time. Is that right? So when you're if you're in 7th grade, as you're 7th grade, so maybe you're 12. So we've been friends for 43 years, right? 43 years. What, am I not going to put him in the special category? Now, there are people who are pure clients who I don't have a personal relationship for one reason or another. Maybe they don't want to have a personal relationship. They just want to keep it strictly business, but they're in my system. But then there are the blue chips, people who materially enrich my life and my business. Now, fast forward, when I first started out, remember I said it was 25,000? Fast forward today, to be a blue card, you have to have 100,000 or more directly or indirectly. Now, you might think of this as sort of an elitist way of approaching things. It's not. It's about efficiency. And by the way, everybody should be doing this to everybody else. And if you want to be a blue card in somebody's system and you're not, it's not their fault. It's your fault. It's my fault. We need to do what it takes to become the blue or the green card in their system that we want to be. There's only so much of you to go around. So you have to be careful about where you're spending your time and how you're maintaining contact with people. Now, guys, in my Rainmaker U program, it is amazing. This is where I talk about the light bulb going on. I work with people who are really successful, people who make, $300,000 to $500,000 a year on average. Many make over $1 million. And they look at this and I see them smirk. They'll go through the process and they'll start to smirk or laugh or giggle or think to themselves, I can see on their face, they're thinking to themselves, I can't believe how successful I am. And I've never really thought intentionally about weaponizing my database. And this completely opens up a brand new whole horizon to me. I mean, I'll go around and I'll say to people after they categorize their database, in blue, green, and white, I'll say, okay, how many blues do you have? How many greens do you have? How many whites do you have? People are like, I have 1 blue, 3 greens, 17 whites. I've got 2 blues, 2 greens, 20 whites. I've got no blues, 2 greens, and 21 whites. Think about that. And these are people that are already successful, but they know what it basically is a reflection of what their activity has been up until that point. And they realize that most of their business life is get on the phone, go to meetings, and grind, push, look under every rock for every potential opportunity. This gets them to think strategically. If I merely doubled my number of blues, it would double my business. If I took a green to a blue, it would radically change my business and could potentially change my life. It could be the difference between sending my child to public school or to private school because I want to send them to private school. It could be the difference between, selling your current house and stepping up to the next level. It could be the difference between going on a wonderful vacation or as opposed to, 3-day weekends. I don't know how it'll translate for you, but what I know is how it dramatically translated or transformed my life and how I have seen it transform other people's lives. Now, I recently got back, on Friday, I got back on Friday from doing a program in Dallas with a very successful commercial real estate firm. And I'm in my home office here on Sunday. And it was funny because we were, when I go to deliver a program like this to really successful people, there's always in the back of my mind is, it's too simplistic. And I've never once had anybody say anything other than, this is really great. I never thought about my business like this, or this is awesome. And it's funny because no matter how successful I've been delivering this program and how many people have really benefited from it, there's always a little bit of doubt. Well, the guys in Dallas, it was no different. We got down there and, I was like, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll work on this together and it'll be a work in progress and we'll see, we'll kind of customize my program for you. And man, they were like, this is fantastic. Each person in the group reorganized their own individual database into blue, green, and white. And then what they did is they had a company blue, green, and white system for tag teaming because they felt they could get even more out of their business if they did that as well. And we set up follow-up calls for the beginning of September, and the middle of September, and the end of September to make sure that this actually gets implemented. I just want to share that with you because I don't want you to be underwhelmed by the simplicity of it. I want you to understand that within your database is gold. And I don't care if your pieces of gold are 1 or 2 or 3, it's a place to begin. And then what your job is to replicate that gold. Because if you go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 4 or 3 to 6, the amount of impact on your business and your life will be staggering, absolutely staggering. Now, here's what I want you to do. Here's how I want you to do it. I want you to print out your database. Okay, I want you to print it out for me. Or, okay, if you're like, no, I'm not a paper person, or my database is 300 pages long. Okay, but here's my challenge with if you don't print it out. If you'll do it like I ask you to do, I want you to print it out. And I want you to go through contact by contact. And the first thing I want you to do is write a D next to people you're going to delete. It's the very first thing I want you to do. Delete the D for the deletes. And here's what I want you to keep in mind. I want you, if there's any doubt, they're out. So you'll get some obvious people like, geez, I don't know, who is this person? Or this person moved away, or this person passed away. There'll be the obvious clear deletes, right? Then you're going to get people like, well, delete. In the past, I work with them and they delete. In this day and age, it's so easy to find people's information. So easy. Clean your database up. So everybody that's in there is in there for an intentional reason right now. Take your database from 300 down to 124. Guys, I'll tell you something. It was very humbling when I first started working with my chief digital marketing officer. I had a database of several thousand, and we went through the process, and it got reduced to like 1,247. I mean, it was so discouraging. But his attitude was, Tim, let's get people out of the system that don't want to be in the system. Let's get people who we've lost contact with. Let's only have, even if we bring it down to 200 people, let's bring it down to 200, and we'll go from 200 to 205 to 215 to 235. But every single person we'll add will be a Tim O'Brien fan. Every person we add will be in the system because they want to be and you want them to be. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to do all the Ds. Now, if you have an assistant, you're going to give it back to your assistant. She's going to go through and delete them. Now it's cleaned up. Then I want you to go through and I want you to decide what your criteria is. Is your criteria the same as mine? 25,000 directly or indirectly? Maybe you're more junior and it's 10,000 is your blue. Maybe you're more advanced than I am and your business model is such that it's got to be, I don't know, maybe 250,000, or maybe it's $1 million. Or maybe you're in insurance and it's premium, whatever the case may be. Now, let me digress a little bit. Let me tell you about another organization I was working with, and this might give you some help. So I was working with this one gentleman, really successful, and I told him to print out his client list and the most important people in his client list. And so what we did was we went through and we organized his client list according to blue, green, and white. The blues were people that generated 50,000 or more. The greens were 49,999 down to 25,000. The whites were 24,999 down to 10. Anybody under 10 stayed in the system, but they were not in that select group. If they gave him business, he would take it. If they left, he could live with it. Because it wasn't that they were $9,000 in business. It could have been $400. It could have been $1,100. It could have been $1,300 or $2,200. The problem was if he kept all 84, there was no way he could get up to the next level. He had to be willing to give up to get up. So I said to him, well, why don't you package those, give them to somebody in the organization and have a fee sharing agreement? Or maybe just give them up. Maybe have somebody else who's coming up just like when you came up who can better serve them, be the person to service them. Because what you have to do is you have to bet on you create the vacuum and more opportunity comes into that vacuum. Does that make sense? I mean, is this making all sense to you here? So I want you to decide what your blue, green, and white criteria is. I don't want you to think you have to do it my way, meaning my criteria. You have to, if you're going to follow my system, you got to follow blue, green, white. But you can decide what you want your blue to be, what you want your green to be, what you want your white to be. Whatever works for you works for me. Now, here's the deal. I don't want you to have any more than 30. No more than 30. You got to define your blues high enough that you're only going to have 2, 3, 4, right? 4 is a lot. Your greens, can't have a ton of greens that are no business, okay? Because nobody has that many best friends, right? So you got to be selective on that. You got, 1 or 2 best friends, and then you got some greens, right, that are maybe generating the blue kind of money, but they're not blues because there's not that personal piece. And then the whites are people that are in your system who you think, if I do some more work here, I can drill down with these people. I can make some things happen with them. Okay? So that's how I want you to do it, because that's how I did it in my Rainmaker U program. Go in, you put all the D's, delete them out. Now everybody that's in there belongs in there. Take out of there your blue, green, your white. Now you got that subsection. That's where you're going to be mining for gold. That's where you're going to be spending most of your time, effort, and attention. Those are the people that deserve the best you have. And your goal is to network with people, just like I said earlier on, people who are further along than you are, fellow connectors, people who are great at what they do. You want to constantly be adding, right? Adding to that blue, green, and white. And always keep in your mind, can't have any more than 30, just 30. You will have all the business you need. Your life will be rich and wonderful and exciting if you have 30 really good blue, greens, and whites. Okay, so that's what my challenge is to you. That's what I want you to do. Now, I want to go back. I want to spend a few moments closing out this. So guys, here's what's really important. With everybody else in your database, they don't go into blue, green, and white, but they go someplace. So if you could take a bird's eye view into my database, you would see that there are, I don't know, my assistant sets them up, so I don't even know if they're called files or folders, but Outlook is what I use. And I organize my Outlook like this. And so what I do is I create categories. And everybody in my database has to fit into the category. And nobody is in a category of one, okay? So I have my clients, Rainmaker U, Keynote, One-on-One, in-house products. Then I have my box system is a category. I have blue, green, and white. Suppliers/vendors. All my vendors go there. Let me jump over miscellaneous. Prospects, right? Prospects are people that I'm prospecting, not to become, a blue, green, or a white, but they're just prospects to grow my business. And then I have relatives, which I call friends and family. Everybody else that I want in my database that doesn't fall into those categories falls into miscellaneous. Maybe it's a friend I have that we've lost contact with, but he's still a great pal and I want to have him in my system. That's it. It's my system. So once you're done with your deletes, your blue, greens, and whites, decide what your other categories are. And then I want you to put the first letter of the category. So if it's a client who's not in your box system, right, put a C. If it's a vendor, put a V. If it's prospect, put a P. If it's friends and family, put an F and F or an R for relatives. And then M for miscellaneous, or just C for general contacts, whatever the case may be. So now you sit back and now you look at your database. And I know it's virtual, but if you could look at it, what you see is everybody is in their place. You have segmented out your best and your brightest, the people that deserve your most attention, the people that are going to produce the gold for you. And then you have everybody else in their right place. And depending upon your need to reach them, you know exactly where to go to get them. And then your goal is to make sure that you're constantly updating this, that you're constantly cleaning it out, cleaning the brush out, right? There's no value in having the biggest database. It's about having the most accurate and the most supportive and the most rich in terms of quality database. That's what it's all about. Guys, so here's what I want to do, right? I want to just kind of finish up. Got some highlights there for you on the left-hand side. Just things I want you to keep in mind as you engage in your business development efforts. Again, this is from the box system, so it doesn't necessarily relate exactly to the database presentation I did, but you can see how it relates to building relationships. And the database is all about, you start with the best people and you build better relationships with them, and you find people of the same or higher caliber and build great relationships with them. So two most useful ideas you gained. When I think about this, for me, it was about organizing my database, cleaning out the brush. That was what my motivation was. Cleaning out the brush that everybody in my database was supposed to be in there because I intentionally decided that they belonged in there. And I routinely updated it to make sure everybody that was in there should always be in there. And I don't mean they get in once and they're in forever. What I mean is that every time I go through and update my database, they're in there again and again and again because they're supposed to be. And if they're not, out they go. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean that at all. It just means I only have so much space, so much capacity. I got to make sure I have the right people in the right seats. Number two, segmenting for importance. Guys, every now and again in your career, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to hit adversity and you're going to need help. And, I will tell you, I got into business not too long ago. When I say not, that's wrong. I got into business a few years ago with some really bad people, just bad people. But you know what? It was my fault because I made the decisions. And quite frankly, my wife said it was a bad move and I knew better. And I went ahead and it was a bad situation. It turned out very badly. And it really just, it grinded me to the ground. And I will tell you something. There was a point in time where I was flat on my back and I had to put my business back together again. And I had to build, renew relationships and ask people for help who have always been in my corner. And the first thing I did was I turned to my database. And it was amazing because the response I got was overwhelming. And, I remember asking a lot of people for help. And I would share with my wife how energized I was and I did this and I did this. And she said to me, I can't believe the way you ask people for things. And I thought to myself, I spent a lot of my life helping other people because I loved to, and it was the nature of my business as a coach. And I needed help. And because I had established that personal connection and let people know that they really mattered to me when I needed help, they were like, tell me where to show up. Just tell me where to show up. Okay. So having said that, my only question to you is what are the couple of key ideas that you're going to do to implement it? Here's what I'd love for you to do. I would love for you to print out your database. I know particularly if you're young, you're like, I can't do that. I can't bring myself to press the print button. I get it. But if I could talk you into it, I'd love you to print it out. I'd love you to go through and I would love you to do a D, B, G, W. I'd love you to decide what your other categories are. And then what I'd love you to do is take all of your notes and go back and reorganize your database. That would make me so happy. So happy. And so your database is as up to date as mine is as tight as mine is, and you can just get to work, start mining for gold. Guys, just want to share a final thought with you, right? You hear me say all the time, like my tagline is, you are your best bet. And it's true. It's not going to happen unless you make it happen. And so what I would say to you is the only thing that will make it happen for you is your sense of urgency. And I don't know if your sense of urgency is because you so desperately want to bring, produce outcomes like buy a new house or, fund your children's 529s or go, go on a mass, a great vacation or, get yourself to a position where you no longer have to have clients that you don't like to deal with, or you're finally out of debt, or you don't have these looming, house payments, over your shoulder, or on your shoulders, whatever the case may be. You got to find that sense of urgency, because without that sense of urgency, without that why, it's not going to happen. But with a great why, the how is so easy. Okay. So let's stay in touch. Twitter is person to see. It's not a typo. Some scoundrel stole. He didn't steal it. Actually, he or she got the person to see. So it's just person to see. My email, tob@thepersontoSee.com. Love to hear from you. Share some thoughts with me, what you like, things that maybe you didn't like, constructive feedback. You got better ways of doing things. I certainly don't have a corner on the market. Would love to hear from you. All of the social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all the person to see. Okay. So look forward to hearing your feedback. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And as I said before, remember, you are your best bet.